Good day, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and this is episode 128 for August the 17th, 2021. And I hope everybody's doing really well. Hope you have some coffee because we've got lots of things to talk about. So I'm going to have a little drink. And that was kind of hot. And let's get right on to things. So I've been working on my Christmas table toppers. As you know, I've been showing this, back and forth for quite a while. But here's the second set. This is one out of 4 in the second set. These are the ones I call Elegant Santa. And this is almost done. It's all quilted and layered. It's just not bound yet. And later today I'm going to cut the binding and get that ready and get them on this. So once I have these 4 in this set done, I have the 4 that feature the gnome embroidery. They're all done now. So that'll give me 8. But I was looking at my list of people that I'm going to be giving these to, and I think I better make about 4 more. So I think I'll keep, I don't know if I'll keep in the same embroidery designs, like just do a couple more gnomes and a couple of more of the Santa ones, or maybe I'll look for something else that I might embroider in the center. I think I'll keep the color scheme the same because I've got enough of all those fabrics to do that. But we'll see. And I'll show those to you too when they're done as well. What else? Well, I'm still making my Christmas pin cushions. That's what I'm calling them now. I've got one set that are going to be gnomes, and here's what they look like. And my idea is these are going to go with the gnome table toppers. I think they're coming out really cute, and I created this design myself. Well, what I mean by that is I didn't create the gnome, I didn't create the thimble, but what I was able to do, and I've got some strings or something hanging off the bottom of this, what I was able to do was to fuse these 2 separate models, that's what they call them, models, together to make this one print rather than having to use a glue gun or something like that. So I figured out how to do that. And that's what I'm doing. I'm still experimenting with the Santa version. This is the Santa version. And by the way, the colors in this are called rainbow filament. And I know it doesn't look that rainbowy, but that's because the distance between each segment of the filament when it changes color is pretty long. And if it's a smaller object like these, you may only get 1 or 2 of the colors coming through. But nevertheless, I still kind of like them. Anyways, this is the prototype. I just printed him yesterday, actually through the night, last night, because these take about 9 hours to print. And I had a little problem with him. Well, he's too small. You see him in comparison to this one. See the difference in the size? So I have now blown him up a little bit bigger. And he's printing as we speak now, and I think he'll be about the same size as this. That's what I'm aiming for. And once I have that done, then I'll do the little thing that goes in the top to hold the pins, and that'll be done. So yeah, I need quite a few of those as well. And that's why I'm starting now in August, because by Christmas I should have all this stuff pretty much done. More coffee. So that's what I've been working on. What else? Well, I've always wanted to do a New York beauty, and I've mentioned this other times on previous episodes of the Idiot Quilter. And one of my friends on the Quilter's Way, Rob, he knows how much I've wanted to do a New York beauty. And the only reason I haven't done a New York beauty is because it scares me. There's a lot of points in a New York beauty. And you've probably seen this before. It's a very, very beautiful quilt when you get them done. And there's various ways you can lay out your blocks to create really cool designs. But there are probably Y seams, depending. And I say depending because in the traditional New York beauty, there would be Y seams, but in some of the modern versions of it, in pattern making, they've been able to design it in such a way so you don't have to fight with Y seams. And yeah, they take a lot of work. So basically, that's why I've never gotten to one. However, Rob sent me a link to a embroidery site I had never been to before, and I can't remember the name of the site. Oh yes, Secret Secret Sewing or something. Secret, did I put it in the show notes? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. The Secret of, or something like that. Anyways, they had files to do a New York Beauty in the hoop on your embroidery machine. And you know how I love to do in the hoop embroidery projects. So I immediately went to the site, and actually it was on sale, the files, for $15.95 or something American, about 20 bucks Canadian. So that's not a terrible price. So I bought them, I downloaded them, and I started using them, and I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. And here's what I've created so far. This is the first segment of the New York Beauty wall hanging I'm going to make. I'm not going to make this into a quilt. I'm going to make it into a wall hanging. But if you look at this a little bit more carefully, it is done in quarter sections, blocks. It's 4 blocks in this. It's all in the hoop applique and the embroidery, and it already looks like it's quilted because they've used this embroidery design, which is probably very difficult for you to see. I don't know if you can see it in one of the other sections or not, but that's all done. And then I sewed them together. So my plan is there are 3 different design files. They all look like this, except the embroidery part is different. And my idea is I'll make 4 of these panels, and then I may do some smaller versions of the blocks to go around the whole center section as a border. And it's going to be, as I said, a wall hanging. Now you might say, well, why am I making it into a wall hanging? Well, the reason being is I'm using tearaway stabilizers. This is the back, and you can see that white stuff is the stabilizer. And I can tear that all out, but you want to know something? I'm not going to. Why? It'll take me forever. Because of the embroidery that's on here and everything, it's tiny little sections. And it doesn't hurt to have it in something like this because it makes it a little bit stiffer. But as a quilt, it might be too stiff. Also, I don't think I'd want to use this as a quilt. It's too nice for a quilt. So this is more a piece of wall art, and at least that's the way I'm going to look at it. And so I'm going to make it into a wall hanging. It won't be huge. Well, it'll be not a bad size, because if you have 4 of these sections in there plus a border, yeah, it's going to be not a bad size. I just have to find a wall to hang it on when it's done, but I'll make it work. You might be wondering what the fabric selection is. I'm using a layer cake for this of batiks. It's just easier. I don't have to worry about matching up my fabrics, getting coordinating fabrics, because everything goes together that's in the layer cake kit. Since I'm using pieces, basically small pieces in this, layer cake is a little bit more convenient. You could do it from your scraps as well, a great way to use up your scraps, and I may do something like that with it at some point in time, or with a different version of it. But I love batiks, and yeah, I think it's going to look really great when it's done. And which is another question. You may say, so when will you get it done? I don't know. I suddenly, you know, I'm like squirrel. I said I was going to concentrate on my Christmas stuff, and I am. But I always get, well, I get a little bored with a project. One, especially like those tabletoppers are kind of repetitive. So I move on to other projects too, and kind of intermix the two. So yeah, this will take a while. Each one of these little blocks that make up the whole section take about half an hour or so to make. Not a long time, but it's kind of those things you've got to be there by the embroidery machine as it's doing it, because you have to lay down fabric and fold it over when you do the applique and that kind of thing. So yeah, although you might say doing something in the hoop like this is really easy, the machine does all the work. Not really. The machine does all the work in terms of sewing it down, but you've got to be there to lay down the fabric and watch it to make sure you've got everything lined up correctly. So yeah, it is an art form in itself, machine embroidery. Okay, so I'm doing that, and I bought something the other day. I've I've done foundation paper piecing before. Not a lot. In fact, I haven't done any in quite some time that I would need to review some YouTube videos to make sure I get it right. Because it isn't really hard, but it can get confusing. And, you know, basically you're doing this on paper. You can do it on freezer paper. You can do it in other ways. But there is paper you can buy. This foundation paper. This is actually Carol Doak's foundation paper, 100 sheets, 8.5 by 11. You can put this in your printer and print the pattern onto it and then go from there. And it's very easy to tear away. So I bought a package of this at Ultimate Sewing the other day. It was $22.49. So 100 sheets, that'll do you for a while. And I'm going to give it a try at some point. But I kind of went online to see if I could find any free, because you know I'm all about free, foundation paper piecing patterns. Say that fast 5 times. And there's tons out there. And I found this one site. Thought I just dropped something on the floor. And of course, you know how I love butterflies. So this is a free printable foundation paper piecing pattern for several patterns for different styles of butterflies. And I might give that a go at some point in time. Again, more projects. I keep adding them up. Do I get them done? Nope. Oh well, we'll work on that. So in the future video, I will show you what I have learned and how this worked out. Okay, so what's that taking me to? Oh yes, under what's happening, classes are starting again at Ultimate Sewing, starting in September. Shirley has contacted us that already were booked into classes just before COVID hit and never got through those classes or even started them. And we've already paid for them. So she's got them rescheduled and she's starting in September. Now I had one class that I hadn't done yet, and that was for a Lone Star. And I've always wanted to do a Lone Star. I have everything ready to go for that. I've had everything ready to go for the Lone Star since that class first came up in 2020, early 2020, just before we all got shut down and everything. And so I'm picking that up in November. Now, I'm a little nervous about this, and I've been talking to Shirley about it, asking her what her COVID protocols are. Now, maybe by November, yeah, maybe not, we'll be out of this. Yeah, wishful thinking, I'm pretty much sure we won't be. But anyways, she says, yeah, everybody will have to have a mask. She's cutting down the number of people in the classroom for this down to 6. I still think that's too many. Shirley's classroom is very, very small. And usually a class will have 8 to 10 people in it. And you're really sitting on top of each other. There is basically only room enough for your sewing machine. That's about it. And so if you got to do any cutting or anything like that, it's very, very awkward with a class of that many. So she's cutting it down to 6. It's still going to be crowded, and to be quite honest, you can't put 6 feet of distance between 6 people in that room. You have some distance. Of course, everybody will have to wear a mask. Okay, I asked her though, are you going to ask people about their status with their shots? Like, I'm double vaxxed, and I think, or I'd like to think that a lot of people taking the classes there, they're older people, so they probably are double vaxxed by the time these classes start. But I asked her, are you going to ask them? Because in the wisdom of our Ontario government, which when I say wisdom, I'm being extremely sarcastic, they will not make it mandatory that everybody has to be double vaxxed. They will not agree to a vaccination passport. So the onus falls on shop owners they can ask and they can set the rules beyond the basic protocol that the government sets up, and it is pretty basic. And they can refuse, if they wish, they can make it the rule that you must be double vaxxed in order to shop here or to take a class or something like that, which means you have to ask people. Now, people could lie about that, But I think what Shirley's more concerned about, and I would be too if I was in her place, is that some people will take offense to being asked about that. There's this whole thing about privacy. Get over it. When it comes to other people's lives, you have no right to privacy. If you're a threat to other people, you have no right to privacy as far as I'm concerned. But she doesn't want to alienate clientele, right? I mean, she's trying to recover from probably the loss of revenue in her store during COVID. And, you know, she doesn't want to have bad feelings between herself and her customers because she has a very good client base. And Shirley has, you know, built that up over years of giving really great service and friendly and knowledgeable in the whole bit. So she doesn't want to jeopardize that. However, do you want people getting sick because they took a class? And I know she doesn't want that either. So right now, I think what she's hoping for is the government's going to turn around and finally say, yeah, everybody has to be double vaxxed, or, you know, we have a passport system or something like that. Right now, that's not looking good, but maybe that'll happen. There's a little time yet. So I don't have any fear asking people if they're double vaxxed whatsoever. If they want to get snotty with me, if they want to get in my face about it, then fine, they can do that, and I'll tell them where to go. No skin off my ass. Sorry, but you know what I mean. So Walter's going to be the guinea pig because he has a class in September. And we've both agreed that if we walk into the first class and we feel uncomfortable with the situation, we just won't continue in the class. I don't care about the money for the class. I care about my health. So I think it'll be fine because Shirley's being very cautious. And I have a feeling that people taking the classes too are most of them are long-time clientele, right? And they don't want to do anything to jeopardize Shirley's business either. So that's what I think. We'll see how that pans out. So I kind of digressed there a little bit, but I am kind of excited about taking a class again because it's been a while. I enjoyed the classes. I learned a lot. It's a social thing. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Okay, so that takes me to what I'd like to demo this week. More coffee. And I wanted to talk about how to mark your rulers. You know, when you're cutting things, especially things that you may not have an actual ruler for. So for example, you want to cut a 6-inch square, but you have like a 12 by 24 inch or an 8 by 12 ruler. And you don't have a 6-inch or 6.5-inch square ruler. Well, there's a way you can do that so you can see your markings easily, especially if you're doing repeated cuts, if you have to make a whole pile of these. And there are several ways you can mark your rulers. Now, there is a commercial product you can buy, and it's this little neon-y colored tape. I think it comes in about 3 different colors. In fact, I think when I bought it, I got 3 of these in a package. I'm not sure what they cost me at the time. I bought this way back when I first started into quilting. And to be honest, I don't use it a lot, but I do use it sometimes. And what it's meant for is it's reusable. It's sticky on one side, and it's a piece of vinyl. And I'm going to grab a piece of paper here to put behind my acrylic ruler so you can see this, I hope. But you can see I've put 2 pieces of this down. I have marked out on this square. This square is a 9.5-inch square. But let's say I only want it, well actually this one I have had marked for a while. I wanted 8.5 by 8.5. So I have put a piece of tape on the edge of 8.5 down and 8.5 at the bottom. So all I do is I lay this down, get the glare off, ring light. I lay this down on top of my fabric and I can see exactly where I need to cut. And that works out really well. Especially this particular ruler is fairly busy, as you can see, with the markings. And some of those markings, especially when you're getting into 1/8 of an inch, are very difficult for me to see with my eyesight. So if I mark it with the tape on two sides, I can see the tape much easier. I lay it down and I get what I want to cut. But do you need to purchase this? No, you don't. You can use what you've got on hand. Masking tape. Masking tape or painter's tape works just as well the same way. And by the way, this tape is not permanent. It'll come right off. In fact, you can reuse it again. And same with masking tape. Masking tape will come right off. So here's a ruler that I've put masking tape on. This is a 8.5-inch ruler. I want a 6-inch square because I don't have a 6-inch square. Actually, I lie. I do have a 6-inch square. I've got a square for almost every size. But if I didn't, then I do the same thing with the masking tape. I put it along the 6-inch line along this edge, and at the bottom I can lay it right down on my fabric. There's my 6-inch square. I know exactly where to cut. So that's two methods. Another method though that you can use is you can use a Sharpie on your ruler. So need a piece of paper again. So you see here my black line. I wanted a 2-inch strip, so I drew my black line right down the 2-inch line, and away I go. And I can see it very easily on this ruler. Now you're going to say, yeah, but a Sharpie? How do you get the Sharpie off? Haha, not a problem. Acrylic ruler, Sharpie. Sharpie will not come off with your finger, but all you need is some rubbing alcohol. And that's what I have in this little spray bottle. So all I'm going to do is just mist that, let it sit there for a second, take a Kleenex, a paper towel, gone. Really simple, really simple. So those are three methods that you can use for marking your rulers, to like either for the fact that you're having trouble seeing, you know, the small little division marks in them, or you don't have a ruler quite the right size and you're going to do repeated cuts in that. And all of these are removable from your rulers. And by the way, too, when you take your masking tape off, if you've got a little bit of a sticky residue, rubbing alcohol again. And that'll take the sticky right off. Simple as that. So that's my suggestion for marking your rulers. It'll make your cutting life easier. Especially, I use this especially a lot when I have to cut 1/8 of an inch, because those markings on the ruler are not usually as easy to see as, you know, your 1/4 inch, your 1/2 inch, that kind of thing. Okay, so that's my little demo of a tip for this week. That takes us to Subscriber's Quilt of the Week, and this one is by someone that we have seen some of her beautiful work before, Yvonne McNeil. She's a regular, and I love sharing what she has to show us because they're always very beautiful. So I'm going to put that little piece in here right now. This week's subscribers' quilts come from Yvonne McNeil, and we've seen some of Yvonne McNeil's work before, and it's always lovely. And so is this. She says, "Pics of the Labyrinth Walk quilt completed. The orange pic is the quilting on the back. Also included a pic of the pattern if anyone is interested. A professional long-arm quilter in Milk River, Alberta did the quilting, and my mom sewed the binding on. It was displayed at the Harvest Days Festival along with about 60 other quilts, and I will be keeping this one for myself as it was expensive to make." Well, it's absolutely lovely, Yvonne, and I've always wanted to do one of these quilts, so you may have got me inspired. And I notice on your pattern it says no Y seams. Even better. So thanks, Yvonne, for sending me these pics. So, in my resource list this week, in the show notes below, you will find a link to Sew Chatty this past week. We called it Pick Your Fabric, Not Your Nose. Lame effort at being funny. And this came from a subscriber who wanted to know how we pick our fabric, how we figure out what we're going to use for our projects. And it's very different between if you're doing a quilt or you're doing a garment. So Walter talks about the garment side, and I talk about the quilting side of it. And at first when we saw this topic, we thought, well, this will take 5 minutes. Oh no, when you get talking about it and the method that you use for picking your fabric, there's a lot more to it than you really think at first glance. So we hope that'll be helpful to especially new quilters. The Idiot Quilter Presents, there is an interview with Brenda Logan. It is now up. Brenda is the owner-operator of a YouTube channel called Conquering Mount Scrapmore. You will probably be very interested in seeing that. And later on in the vlog today, I will have a little teaser for you. I'm going to talk about a Moda Love Layer Cake Quilt pattern. And I'm going to show you what that is and what I'm going to do with it. And of course, the YouTube channel of the week is one called Treasure Hearts Creations, and I'll talk about that. And we're going to look at another online fabric store called the East Coast Quilt Company, and of course it is Canadian and it's in the East Coast. Okay, and there's links to 3 of my favorite local quilting stores that have online presence. Okay, so the YouTube channel of the week is called Treasure Hearts Creations, and so I review that here right now. This week's YouTube channel is called Treasure Heart Creations. I stumbled upon this some time ago, and it isn't a huge channel yet because I think he's just got it started. Yes, it's a he who talks about quilting. Now let's just take a look at his videos that he has. He doesn't have that many yet. He's got, the latest is 52 weeks, 52 blocks, week number 3. So he seems to be doing a block of a week kind of a thing. And so these all 3 here, 1, 2, and 3, are the first 3 blocks. And it looks like he started this, well, fairly recently, because the first one went up 2 weeks ago. He has a haul video on here. He has a trip to, I think it was Kansas City something. It's a quilting show, and something about what's this all about. And actually, if we look, that's all he has so far. But you can see he only has 362 subscribers, so he's new. He's really new. Well, his first one went up a month ago, according to this. So I always like to help out new content providers on YouTube because I had people help me out as well. So you can check this out. But I thought that his introductory video was very good. So I'm going to just play this for you right here because I think it says it all.
How many of you ran to the store to buy a gift for someone instead of making it? Or let me put it this way. When was the last time you made anything? Of course, everyone's excuse is, I don't have the time, or buying it is so much easier. And I get it. It's so much easier to just buy it at the store or pay someone to make it for you. But think about this. The price you pay for that gift, does it really reflect how much you value the recipient of that gift? Are they worth the $29.95 plus shipping and tax? Well, some of them might be. But what about those that you really care for, like your parents or grandparents or a significant other? Can you really place a dollar value on your friendship with them? You see, I believe that when you make a gift for someone, it's worth more than something you just buy at the store. And a lot of times the end result is so much better than that store-bought gift. Perhaps you have the desire to make handmade gifts, but don't have the knowledge. Well, that's where I can help. I've been crafting for a number of years, and it gives me great joy to see the recipients of those gifts I have made enjoy and cherish them. In every stitch or stroke, I pour my heart into what I'm creating. You see, I believe that the things made from the heart are more valuable than the materialistic things we buy. But the most valuable are the memories these items create. Treasure Heart Creations is dedicated to helping people learn how to make treasures they can create with their own hands, pouring everything within their heart into their creation. Join me on this journey. Laugh at my crazy antics. Learn a new skill. And create something for that special someone. If this sounds good to you, let's get creating.
So, yeah, I think you should check out Treasure Heart Creations because I think he's got lots of good things coming in the future.
Now, along with the Christmas table toppers that I'm making for this Christmas, I do want to do a small, probably lap size Christmas quilt. Now, I have several Christmas quilts, and I know a lot of people like to make at least one Christmas quilt every year, and I'm kind of in that vein as well. What am I going to do with them all? I don't know. Again, gifts, maybe. But I was watching So Very Easy with Laura Coyas not too long ago, and I've talked about her YouTube channel before on here, and she had a pattern that she was showing that was a free pattern from Moda called Moda Love Layer Cake Quilt. And just as the title suggests, you make this using a layer cake. Now, this is not specifically a Christmas quilt, but it features a star right here, and you know, I love stars in quilts, so this immediately grabbed my attention. But I think it's very adaptable to other types of pre-cuts, like charm packs, 5-inch ones. And that's what I'm going to use for this little Christmas quilt. And this is what I've decided to do it from. This is called Winter White by Holly Taylor. It is Moda Fabrics. I didn't pick it because it was Moda, but it's Christmassy, almost vintage looking kind of Christmas fabric. I bought 2 of these, and this is what I'm going to use to do this pattern. And this pattern, if you look at it, it's basically half square triangles. So, you know, I can probably whip these off in no time. And plus, if I'm doing it as a lap size, it won't take all that long. Slap a couple of borders on it, Bob's your uncle, it's done. Okay, so that's what I'm working on. This is, as I said, a free pattern, a downloadable PDF, and I've put the link to this pattern if you're interested in it. And it doesn't have to be for Christmas, okay? It's not designed for Christmas, actually, but I'll make it into Christmas. But you can download it for free, and I've got the link in the show notes below. So you might want to check that out, and I'll keep you informed. Actually, I'm dying to get started on that project too, but yeah. Okay, so what's that taking me to now? All right, I already mentioned that this week's interview is with Brenda Logan from Conquering Mount Scrapmore. Very, very interesting lady. And here's a little teaser of that interview.
As a quilter, or as a newbie, you're gonna buy a collection. And I see this all the time when I'm teaching. They come with a jelly roll. They don't come with fat quarters, or they don't come with scraps. They come with a jelly roll, and we make a jelly roll quilt. Well, you're picking all of the designer who put that jelly roll together, what their tastes and preferences are. You haven't learned anything about your own tastes and preferences.
Right.
Like you don't know if you hate blue. I mean, you could, right? I mean, you could love red and not realize it. But because you're working with a small sampling of 42 strips, you're not teaching yourself anything, right? So this is why I say, go to someone else's scrap box, play there, and you're going to run into things that you wouldn't buy.
Okay, so the link to the full interview is in the show notes. So that takes me to one of my quilts that I've done. Now, this quilt I did not that long ago. It's an Aussie quilt made up of Australian fabrics, and I love my Aussie quilts. This one was my own pattern, and yeah, I'm going to point out some of the things I did that I thought worked out okay, and some of the things that I could have done
This
better.
week's quilt of my own that I wish to critique is one that you have seen before, because I finished this up last year, maybe even earlier this year. I can't remember exactly, but now I'm going to analyze it. And this is my Aussie quilt, and this is one that I wanted to make after I came back from my 3rd trip to Australia. And I downloaded a bunch of Aussie animal embroidery files. And I also had a lot of authentic Australian fabrics, many of them based upon Aboriginal or Indigenous people artwork that I bought when I was actually in Australia. So this one took me some time to do because of all of the embroidery. And I had to figure out each one of these little squares, how I was going to get the embroidery to look the way it does. And so I actually embroidered this, and I appliqued. First of all, what I did was I appliqued the circles onto the squares along with the star. The star is a stylized version of one of the stars on the Australian flag. And of course, the colors that are in these blocks are also in the colors of the Australian flag. And then I embroidered each of these on top of those. I put it all together, and I had this big applique. Now, this is from my second trip to Australia. I found a whole bunch of these appliques of Australia animals. And my original plan was I have about 4 of them that I was going to create a quilt of just these alone. And I still might do that someday. But this is actually the only one I actually completed. So I made it the centerpiece of this quilt. And I built out from there. Now, of course, this quilt is all my own design. And I just based it on pretty much standard blocks. So you can see up in the corners of each of these, I also did some embroidery of Australian native flowers using kind of the same technique that I used for these blocks. And then I used a lot of my Australian fabric and to create the chevrons. And are there flying geese in here? Not really, they're chevrons. All the way around in the border. Now, I have to admit there was some finagling to be done with this to get things to fit, because if you look down here in this corner, you can see how I had to put a little coping strip in here to make this piece fit. And actually that worked out pretty good because I was able to do the same thing on all 4 corners, so it looks like it's purposely been done. Well, it has been purposely done, but you know what I mean. So if you look at this border fabric that's here, these are kangaroos. And I got it in 2 color waves. But I also had enough fabric left over to make a second quilt, as Karen Brown calls it, after quilt. And I decided to use that as my backing. And here's the back. So this is a reversible quilt. And again, all my own design, very simple design, just strips, really, strip piecing. For all of this. As far as the quilting is concerned, and you can see it on the back side of this, I just did a lot of walking foot quilting. Let's go back to the front, and some echoing around this. And I did have the backing on the quilt when I did it. So whatever's up here came out on the other side. But because of the nature of this, see here, if you look closely, you can see the echoing. It really didn't matter. It just added, I thought, to the quilt. So overall, I was really pleased with the way this turned out, since I had to make it up as I went along. So yeah, it's a great memory of my trips to Australia.
So that takes us to the online quilt store of the week. This one is located out in the east coast of Canada. I think it's St. John's, Newfoundland, actually. So one of the furthest parts of Canada. And it looks like a really, really neat store. Now, I've never ordered anything from them, but I may in the future. And so here's my review.
This week's online quilt store is called East Coast Quilt Company, and this is a store I have not bought from, but it is Canadian, and it's located in St. John's, Newfoundland. So that, I think, is kind of unique. So let's jump right in and take a look at their homepage, and this is what we have. They say they carry all 370 colors of Kona cotton solids, and then they're showing some kits that they have, and they have their welcome. And basically on July the 2nd, 2019, we joined forces to become ECQ Company, We still offer all the same products and services you've come to expect from both businesses. So it looks like they consolidated with another business. They're open 7 days a week. That's unusual. A lot of stores are not. But then again, is this one have a street? Yeah, they do. They actually have a brick and mortar store here as well. It looks like they do custom quilting as well. So yeah, so let's check out their fabrics. So shop all. Oops. Okay, let's see here. Products. Here we go. We've got bag making supplies and batting and interfacing, books and patterns. This looks like a sale area. Their fabrics, gifts and finished goods, mask making supplies, new arrivals, notions, paper piecing supplies, quilting crafting kits, services, sewing machine accessories, and stitching and embroidery. So they've got quite a lot on here, and they have classes. I don't imagine they're running classes right now, but we'll check that out. So let's take a look at their fabrics. And where were their fabrics? Here they are. So we know that they specialize in all the solid colors of Kona. Fabric by color, apparel fabric. So they have clothing fabric, fabric by designer, fabric by manufacturer, fabric by style. So they've got it all broken down into different categories, and they have price range and brand names. So let's just pick something. Let's look at fabric by designer. Let's see what we get here. So it looks like they have a lot to choose from in terms of fabric designers. So let's take a look at K Facet, because that's one of my favorites. And products. So one piece, short cotton sunflower. Okay, let's just take a look. So this one, it says $20.95. I'm assuming that's a meter. Let's just go in here. Yes. So they do sell by the meter, and doesn't look like that's, you can get anything less than a meter. Or maybe you can. Let's go 0. Oh yeah, you can get it in fat quarters. Oh, they have a wide variety of things you can get. So $20.95, that's the going price these days, unfortunately, for fabric. But yeah, so let's just go back. So it looks like they have, as I said, a wide selection of fabric. I wonder if we go to all categories, will this tell us? No, this is just all the categories what they have. They have batting. Let's take a look at batting. And I suspect they handle the major ones. Something called Tender Touch batting. That's one I have not heard of. Dream Puff. But do they handle Hobbs? It doesn't look like. It looks like they're something Quilter's Dream and Tender Touch batting seem to be their principal Pellon. Okay. And what's their prices? Just look at the Pellon for a second. $9.95 a meter probably. Well, that's not terrible. Really, it's not that bad. I pay about, what do I pay? Well, I buy wide backing, so I pay $24 a meter for that, for 120 inches. But, okay, I guess that's fine. Let's take a look at books and patterns, see if they've got much to choose from here. Quilting patterns, let's go to that. They seem to have a fair selection. They have lots of pages of it. So did it say at the top how many there are? 113. So that's not bad. Something there for everybody, I suppose. And they do have other ones. They have pen and paper patterns. And of course downloadable. Looks like their patterns are probably downloadable, most of them. Okay. let's look at another category. Go back in here. No, I probably should have gone shop all. And let's see what they have in Notions. Notions, here we go. And everything is very nicely organized on this website. I must say that about it. And they have the usual kind of things. They've got irons and zippers and bag making products and needles and thread. Let's take a look at their thread. And what brands are they selling? Thread by brand. Aurifil, Brother, Glide, Superior. Okay, not a lot to choose from, but all good quality threads. And they have a newsletter. And now let's say what they're saying about classes right now. They do have classes, it looks like. And there's prices. But are they virtual or are they in-person classes? Let's check bag of the month. Select the date, includes materials, includes all hardware, lists all the fabric you would need, your cancellation project. They do have a COVID protocol in place at the shop. We have reduced the number of seats available. So these are in-person classes. They have a calendar. They do have embroidery. And it looks like this is more hand embroidery. It's not machine embroidery as such. Oh, but they do sell Bernina embroidery module. So that would make me think that they are probably a dealer in Bernina sewing machines. Well, do they? Shop all. Let's go back here. I didn't notice if they sold sewing machines or not. And it looks like, oh wait, here we go. Sewing machines. Yep. They sell Bernina and Brother, and they have accessories for that. Okay. Annex and last chance. So what's the annex? Nothing much in there. Featured categories, East Coast Quilt. Okay, this just took us to... I wonder, since they combined two stores, I wonder if this is stuff from one of the stores and they're putting it up here. It looks like a lot of the same thing we've already seen. Okay, so what's their shipping policy? Let's see if I can find that. I'll just go down to the bottom of the page. Shop all, shop online. Policies. Okay, shop online. Nope, that's not what I want. Go back. Let's check policies. How long before an order is shipped? Takes 1 to 3 days. Shipping. They do attempt to make money with their shipping. We do not attempt to make money with our shipping charges, and in fact are held hostage by our carrier, which is Canada Post. Shipping is a magic combination of weight and dimensions on the cost of it. Okay, they tell you all of that. But they're not telling us how much it costs to ship, and it doesn't look like they're offering any kind of special, like free shipping on anything. So I guess you won't find out about shipping until you actually go to your shopping cart and cash out, and then they probably have a section that tells you how much that's going to cost. I would be suspicious about this on what it costs, because they are in Newfoundland and everything costs. It's almost like it's another country in our country. And shipping, I do know, is expensive from Newfoundland. But you'd have to check that out with them. Probably, as I said, you'd find that out when you go to checkout. So overall, it looks like a really good site the way it's laid out. They seem to be well organized, very professional. And depending on what it would cost to ship, from them, I think it would be worthwhile investigating further and ordering from them too. So that's the East Coast Quilt Company.
So that brings me to the end of this week's Idiot Quilter, but just a note about my plans for a retreat, maybe at the end of September, the last weekend in September, maybe the first one in October. I'm not sure when Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, falls this year. I have to look that up because I don't want a conflict with that. I haven't done a lot of work on it, I'll be very honest, because I'm kind of hesitant. This one's going to take a little different format than the one in the spring. Now, I have talked about charging money for pre-registration, non-refundable, and I'm changing my mind about that. Since I am not a business, I do not have readily available to me ways that people can pay for something like this. And the only reason I would have been charging money was just to, get a firmer commitment from people. I mean, when you're doing all this work to set something like this up, you want to make sure people are serious about coming to it. And also, I was going to use that money for prizes and things like that. Because I don't want to go back to the same sponsors I had last time. And, because they were so generous in the first one. So yeah, there's all these factors involved. Right now, if I'm going to have it, it's going to be more on the lines of one of my craft and chats. It'll be sort of like if you want to come and for a while or the whole day or whatever, I will publish a schedule of what's going on. That's the other thing I have to work on. I'm not really going to have guest speakers because I can't afford to pay them. But I do have a couple of ideas for some very short and quick tutorials. I would be basing this retreat around the theme of Christmas, getting our Christmas things started or done, probably more or less started again, but it will be open to whatever you want to work on. And as usual, it will be open to all crafters, not just quilters and sewers, but anybody who's a knitter, crocheter, paper crafter, journal maker, mixed media artist, whatever, it'll all be there. But I've been hesitant about it. This is what you can do for me. If this is something you would be interested in, as I said, it'll be very late September probably when it goes up. It'll only be a one-day event, although I am thinking of having a ice-breaking cocktail party and trunk show the Friday night before for those that are interested. It will be free. There probably won't be, maybe there will be some prizes, but there won't be as many as I had at the last one. So if you're interested, from just what I'm saying right now, and I know I haven't given you a lot of information because I haven't got a lot of it planned yet, just drop me a quick line saying, yeah, that would be something I would be interested in. That is not a commitment on your part, okay? Although I would like it to be, but it's not, okay? Life gets in the way, I know that. So, if you're interested, let me know. If you have some suggestions for things you would like me to do or would like to have incorporated into a one-day retreat like this, and I'm thinking that would run from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, my time zone here in Ontario, then you could make those suggestions too. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with this right now. It's really going to depend on what kind of responses I get from you. So think about it. Okay, enough for me for now. So I hope you have a great week. I hope you are in a happy place in your life. I hope you're being safe, and I hope you're creating something that really brings you joy. So until next week, have a good one. Bye for now.